Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Pad Day, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport. This podcast is presented by Boxed Water. Boxed water is better.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I've got my guest, Amani Alderson. He's the Assistant Director of Creative Video for UC Football. I hope I got that right, Amani.
Creative media, but yeah.
Creative media, yep. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate you. I know you said it's the off season for you to take some time off, so I appreciate you kind of taking the time out of your vacation time to come and chop it up, man. So it's good to see you. Like I was telling you off camera, it's good to see you and good to kind of connect with you again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good to see you again. I appreciate you
Yeah,
having me. Like I said, it's my first time doing something like this. I'm normally interviewing other people, so it's cool.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take it back here, but like I know you're creative. You do a lot of creative media, creative video stuff with UC football. You did a lot of that stuff when we were together at Memphis as well. But which kind of your earliest memory, and I ask athletes, coaches, sports staff this, like which one of your earliest memory with sport and just
sports in general or sports video?
Just sports in general. We'll start with sports in general and then we'll kind of jump into sport video.
So I actually was born in Southern California, and I wasn't necessarily part of like a sports background, like per se. Like, so my mom, she was not necessarily like a big athlete. My grandparents, not necessarily like they did physical labor, so that's why I'm kind of like a little bit bigger in a sense. But my biological dad, he actually did a lot of he played D1 football. But that was pretty much the extent of like my sports background until my mom married my now stepdad, and I walked in from being a single kid, the only child, to having 6 other siblings, and all of them were older than me, so I was the youngest, and all of them went D1, D2 for their each respective sport. So my brother D1 football, my other one D1 football. Trying to think, my sisters were D1 volleyball. So like when I was younger, it was one of those things that like I wasn't necessarily the most gifted genetically, but I wanted to compete. Like for me, from a younger age, like I just wanted to do well. Like that was always my big thing. So whenever you're the youngest, you're trying to find any ways to get one up on your brother or your sister, especially when you're the youngest. So joined football. That was my first ever sport. Played basketball. I immediately fell in love with basketball. Played baseball. Not necessarily the best at baseball, but yeah, I fell in love with basketball. I love watching football. I was always a big sports fan growing up, even though I didn't necessarily start exactly looking that I was going to go that trajectory.
Gotcha. So did you play you said you played basketball at a young age, you played football, like you said, you played a plethora of sports. Did you continue that into high school, or when was it where you transitioned to sports video and kind of decided to go, hey, like maybe like playing the sport isn't really for me, but I like doing this side of things as well. Kind of when was that point for you?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So middle school and elementary school and middle school and high school, I played football and basketball. Basketball was always my number one. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I actually stopped playing. Well, I played the sophomore year of football, and then after that, I told my coaches, I was like, "Hey, like I want to focus on basketball because I wanted to go to college." I'm only 6'2", and I wasn't like an elite level athlete. And like my big thing was like I wanted to go D1, and me mentally, like, I didn't want. I just didn't want to go any lower than D1, which was kind of a bad attitude to have. Looking back on it, but for me, I actually, up until college, like you really couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to play college sports because I saw all my brothers and sisters do it. My dad, like, and I felt in my heart that I was good enough to do it. So whenever I went to Memphis, it was somewhat of there was something inside that was telling me like I should walk on to play a sport. That ended up not coming to fruition, but it was actually middle of my 8th grade year. Like that was like one of my better basketball years. I was like extremely confident. I was looking kind of ahead to playing high school basketball. So for the most part, I was just trying to dominate middle school as much as I could to show the varsity coaches that I could
Yeah.
play on that level.
Yeah.
And it's a deleted app now, Vine, the
Oh,
six
yep, yep.
video
Like,
thing. I saw one edit, and I think it was like DeAndre Jordan dunking, and it had like this big old bass drop whenever he dunked the ball, like insane.
oh,
And like
gotcha.
I saw it like just scrolling through Vines. I'm 14, so I'm just trying to find funny Vines. And then
Yeah.
I see that dunk, bass drop, and like for me, like I got chills. It was a 6 second thing.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, dude, that is the coolest thing ever. Like,
Uh,
what if I do that? Like I was a big Laker fan. What if I did that when Kobe makes a shot or a game winner?
yeah.
Or what if I put that to the beat of a Memphis football player making a big hit?
Hmm.
So I ended up like just I don't even know what I did. I think I got my mom's Kindle and downloaded like some sort of video editing app.
Gotcha.
I don't even know what it was,
Oh,
and
hey,
I ended up
yeah.
doing it. And
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I didn't realize they had that. I thought Kindle was just for reading books. I'll be honest
I
with you.
thought it was too. It was just a big enough screen for me to see everything. So
I
I was
got
like,
you.
yeah, let me do
I got
that. Yeah.
you. I was like, that's a surprise me. I was like, when you said Kindle, I was like, wait a second, that registered as a book reading
As a
thing.
reading thing, yeah.
Like,
I had an iPod and
uh,
I had an iPod Touch, I think, and
uh,
it was chipped, and then a Kindle. So I decided to just to put as many of those beat drops together, and then
yeah,
next I'm in the community at that point.
yeah.
So
No,
that was like my early exposure.
yeah, and you said you started that eighth grade year, you were trying to build it out. How did that, and we'll jump in as you kind of mentioned, you got into the community there and you got into that atmosphere. How did that evolve as you got into high school? Can you talk about your process in high school as you evolved and kind of your experiences there?
Yeah, so like I said, I was heavily competitive into sports.
Mhm.
And that was like my main focus going into high school. But it was something that was really cool to me.
Yeah.
Um, and in high school, like I just kind of kept it on the back burner a little bit. And then towards my junior year, senior year, I would say senior year,
Mhm.
I I saw a YouTube video, and it was like this long drawn out YouTube video, 2 minutes. Like that was considered long to me. Like I'm
Gotcha.
17, so I have like a short attention span.
Yeah.
And like I think that was like I just had chills like just watching it. Like it was like Kobe's like last game or whatever, and they had like a little tribute, and it was nothing like too crazy. But I was just like, man, like it's just so cool to see everybody in the arena and everybody on social media react and be tugged emotionally. And like somebody put that work into it. Someone poured their heart out to
Yeah.
make people feel that way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really beautiful. Like my dad, he was also he was big into films. Like him and my mom used to go to film festivals. Stepdad, by the way,
Yeah.
they used to go to film festivals, and I remember seeing a movie, Interstellar. Like that
Yeah.
was one of my first movies that I can vividly remember, like moving me in the theater. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, that's so cool, just how people can like carry that emotion for days on end, for months on end, or
Yeah.
last with them for like the rest of our life. And so I took it more seriously. Like towards my senior year, I got my grandma. She worked at the University of Memphis,
Gotcha.
had Chromebook that I could borrow, so not anything too powerful, but like for me, it was just like I worked weeks on getting one of these edits out. That's not very good,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was kind of how it evolved, and from there, like going into college, like I was pretty confident that that's generally what I wanted to do.
Gotcha, gotcha. And when I talk to athletes on here about their transition from high school to college, I always ask them kind of what the difference is between their high school sport and their college sport. Obviously, when it comes to videography, you've done a multitude of sports or shot a multitude of sports. What's kind of the biggest? I'll ask you this instead of asking kind of the difference of the one specific sport. What's the biggest difference when you're when you're shooting basketball versus football versus like multi other sports? Like what's the biggest difference that you notice when
Without being too technical, definitely one, the environment. Like football is outside typically.
yeah.
Basketball, on the contrary, is inside for
Mhm.
the most part. So basketball, I wouldn't say it's necessarily easier
Yep.
because for me, like it's a controlled environment. So
Gotcha.
and kind of that range of good clips or great clips, like it's a higher floor, but it's a
Yeah,
lower ceiling, in my opinion, more times than not, whenever you're in a controlled lighting space like basketball. But
gotcha.
football, you got your sun flares at golden hour, you got night games that you can play too. So whenever those clips really hit, those clips can really, really do well. And then the field. So
Gotcha.
basketball, like everything is very fast. Like they throw a ball every
Yeah. Yep.
set like hot potato. So
Yep.
like, well, me, I try and
And,
make manual as
yep.
much as I can in basketball for sure.
Mhm.
Shooting through people, so you're constantly moving your focus very, very little. You're
Yep.
moving your camera in a smooth but kind of jerky way, very, very little. And then in
Yep.
football, like it's a lot more. You throw the ball 40 yards downfield.
Mhm.
Run that's kind of generally like easing kind of towards you. You're just having to move things very, very smooth, but it's a wide range of. So for me, that's the technical differences.
Mhm.
As far as shooting approaches, like I said, like football is very unpredictable. You got rain, you got snow, you got sunlight, you got
Yep.
darkness. And
Yeah.
in basketball, it's a little bit more controlled. So
Gotcha. What's your favorite sport out of all the sports that you've done videography with or creative stuff for? I mean,
mm.
obviously you're with football now at UC, but what's kind of your favorite sport to shoot, really? If that makes
If it's in a vacuum, I would probably say basketball. Like it's just
Gotcha.
easy. I don't want to say anything shooting wise is easy, but it's easier to walk in the gym. You kind of know where everything is.
Yep.
Uh, you generally know how the lighting's going to go, how the game is going to go, like the
Gotcha.
pregame is going to go.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're just trying to like get that confidence boost, I
Yeah.
try and shoot basketball from a wide range of different areas.
Gotcha.
Especially for me, because I'm not employed in that. But
Mhm.
football I love for the off the field like relationships. Like I
Yeah.
want to be a part of one team in football. Like, you're outside in the winter in Cincinnati, it's 20 degrees with a bunch
Yeah.
of dudes,
Mhm.
do the same hard stuff together. And I think that you can get a really good bond, with the coach's film kid that's sitting up there for 2 hours, or you got the strength coaches that are out there with their shorts, and like you just remember, and football's so consistent, you just
Gotcha.
remember everybody and what they're doing, what gets them to tick,
Yeah.
just kind of the hard things that they had to go through. So it's really cool to get that emotional aspect
Yeah.
in football that I think is unmatched across a lot of other sports that I've shot.
And it's interesting you mentioned the coaching video side of things, and that's where I had met you at Memphis when we worked together and did coaching video for football.
Right.
How much did that or that process, and you talk about building those relationships, which is key within the creative community, within sport, and within other in sport in general. And I tell my students this all the time. It's all about building networking, building relationships, going through that process. But how much did coaching video and being in and working coaching video, how much does that process help you now on the creative side, or did it?
On the creative side, I definitely think, well, honestly, it's funny. That actually helped me get my first job. So my boss well, now he was at Louisville earlier. He saw that I was a part of Coach's Film on my resume.
Okay.
And what he said was, I was more apt to hire you because when you're in coach's film, like you're standing there for
Yeah.
2 hours every single day, in the
Yep.
mornings, at night when it's hot at fall camp, in a lift,
Yeah.
moving all over the place. He
Yeah.
was like, I know that you're gonna have the bandwidth and to withstand just anything in the college football scene, because that's monotonous. It's boring. Like no one likes to do it for
Yeah.
the most part. So that for me, that actually helped me get my first job. But from
Gotcha.
a creative standpoint, it was um, it definitely helped me. Like it gave me a lot of time to think. Like I said, it's pretty monotonous and long and super repetitive.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things that I mean, coaches use coaches film to see everything, to
Yep.
see parts of the game that you wouldn't be able to from the ground. And
Gotcha.
so for me, whenever like I specifically shot end zone most of the time, it
Yeah.
allowed me to see the game from a bird's eye view.
Yep.
That whenever came down and shot creative video, like I had a pretty good menu of like what I wanted to get,
Mhm.
what kind of story I was trying to convey, because I see it from 80 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to come down and like actually put that, on
Put
my
that
camera.
piece
So
together.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it definitely helped in that sense if I were to point something out.
Gotcha. And now, like I mentioned, you're at the University of Cincinnati, working with their football team there, creative video, and creative media. And I always talk to athletes and coaches and staff about kind of their goals and kind of what they envision. So want to kind of pose that to you, Amani, is you're at UC now, you're with football now, but like say 5, 10 years down the line, what are your kind of goals, long-term goals, short-term goals, whatever they may be?
Mhm.
Just reflect on kind of your goals, that you had and that you have and that you're pursuing, that you want to get to, and the level that you want to get to.
Yeah. Probably the worst person to ask because I don't necessarily. I definitely think about it. So like things in the
Gotcha.
future that I want to do, I definitely think about it. I just don't put too much action towards them in the short term, which is
Gotcha.
not necessarily the best thing. But I try and keep the mindset of like you try and disconnect from the end goal. So for me,
Yep.
like I've always been the like getting this job, honestly. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to work as hard as I possibly could in
Yeah.
college. Like I took a lot of projects I didn't want to do.
Gotcha.
Uh I made a lot of moves that I wasn't necessarily comfortable making, but it was for
Yeah.
growth.
Yep.
And you kind of see where the chips fall. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to work as hard as I could at my craft. And if the
Yeah.
best that I can do in 3 years or whatever, whatever that journey's been so far, is assistant director of creative media at Cincinnati, then I'm
Yep.
okay with that.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, like or a
What
short
your
term.
short term, long term goals, whatever you want to discuss. I mean, I always let athletes kind of talk about their personal goals and general reflect. So figured I would throw that question out to you as well.
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. So short-term goals, I would love to be a director
Okay.
uh of creative like in for a football team.
Yep.
Uh if I were to put like an actual title on it, in 10 years, um I don't know I mean, as everybody knows, college
You
football
just
is moving so fast and like in such different directions. Like I would love to be a part of sports, but if I were to say one that I vocalize is I love the creative solutions
yeah.
role. I
Yeah.
see a need for it. Honestly, for every team across the country, or athletic department, to be honest, is
Gotcha.
just figuring out the best way to market yourself, to brand yourself,
Yeah.
whether it's through video or graphic. I think someone needs to have a good organization and pipeline to, if you're Cincinnati or University of Cincinnati,
Yeah.
hey, if you're trying to do this campaign, a lot of people fall in love with the graphic side of it. Like, hey, we should just throw a graphic at it.
Yeah.
But it's better to do it in a video aspect. And if you're going to do it in a video aspect, how does that look? Is it a 3 minute long piece? Is it a series long piece? Is it what resources do we have? Do we have one video person in the whole athletic department at, let's just say where I was at Memphis? Is it just one full-time person, or we got multiple people? So I think a lot of people, I think having somebody in the middle of the creatives and like the head coaches and like higher ups to like kind of filter that message, say, hey, and
Middleman type of thing.
right,
Yeah.
that middleman, because there's only so much a creative can say, like, hey, we can't do it. From the
Yeah.
higher up, it looks like you're being lazy. But if
Yeah.
you're a middleman that knows how to do it, has done it
Has
before,
the experience. Yeah.
yeah, you can go back and forth telling them this is probably how it should look, and this is the game plan of how we do it. So
Gotcha.
it, kind of a coaching for creatives, I guess, in a sense, is like my long-term goal. I'd love to do that.
Gotcha. No, yeah, it's great to see kind of, and that's what allows me when I'm teaching, that's what it allows me to mentor students. So it's great to hear, your side of you wanting to mentor others and kind of coach others up. And that's,
Right.
that's great to hear on that side. And so,
I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's just so I just think it's so important to understand, or for people or universities to understand, like where creative can help
yeah,
and where it's going. Like if we're going to be moving, fast tracking in recruiting
yeah,
or IL spaces or in social media to
yeah,
get engagement, like you need to take that seriously. Like just like any other team, and I'm not trying to make it sound like we're athletes or anything like that. Like
yeah,
but just like any other team or any other brand, you have to have a coach that does that. And I think, yeah, having a director is absolutely fine, and director of football, director of basketball, creative for basketball. But like having one that oversees the whole department as a whole and
yeah,
understands the health and the resources of of that specific university, and knows the higher ups and
Yeah.
knows how to talk to them, I think that's extremely important. I think a lot of teams should take advantage of that.
And especially now, you mentioned there a key piece with NIL and how rapidly college football and college sports in general is changing. Now you got like conferences coming together with the Big Ten, the SEC, multiple schools in that regard, obviously NIL and other aspects. And so it'll be interesting to see how, and I just like how you're on that path of, you want to be able to showcase and creatives are important. I saw a tweet the other day that said like every athletic department needs to have a creative video department, and it is. I mean, even now with NIL, like I've had some of our student athletes here ask me to make them a highlight tape because they won't give them an NIL deal unless they have proof that they're actual legit athletes.
Yeah.
So like, the video aspect is the creative video aspect, and the highlight videos and the reels are super important in that regard, especially like you said, now that we're going into that NIL space, and that's going to evolve and increase over time. So again, it'll be interesting to see how that process plays out and how everything goes out, but it's cool to see kind of your attitude and your perception of that. So but before we finish the episode, like I said, I always give my guests a chance to. The reason I started this is because obviously I coach football here in Greeley, and so help out my student athletes in that regard. And obviously, like I said, this podcast has evolved. It's been great. I've enjoyed it. But I really wanted to do it to kind of get my guests to kind of talk about and help inspire kind of the youth in the area, youth across. So Amani, if you were talking to, young kids or young individuals, now social media has blown up. You said Vine, you have TikTok now and other means where younger kids are able to like use those mediums to create videos and create graphics at a younger age now. But what piece of advice based on your experiences in the sport video, coaching video, creative video, however you want to approach it, but based on your experiences, what kind of advice would you give to young people who want to, or who are like, hey, that maybe they see your reel and they're like, hey, I want to be like Amani someday. I want to work, or something like that. What kind of advice would you give to young people who want to get into this creative space?
Yeah. Man, if I were to be talking to myself or to young people, it'd be just start. Like, I know I'm a big overthinker, and like I gotta start this way, or it's gotta be like I gotta hit these prerequisites before I launch,
Yeah.
You're wasting time. And like I said in this whole podcast, like college and college athletics and athletics in general is moving so fast. The world moves so fast.
Yeah.
If you're not starting, like you're not doing anything. And so for me, I'm saying this for myself too. Like just I had a Kindle, I had an iPod Touch,
Yeah.
I had my grandma's Chromebook. It was just like whatever you could do to get your hands on to make the video. Everything else will come. So go out and shoot. Like I took a
Like I said, I see little kids now on TikTok, like making little second TikTok videos. So
exactly, they're doing CapCut, or you got kids that are editing in class on iMovie. Yeah. So like if they're doing it, like, and those things are free. Like I'm not even saying that you have to get a subscription or anything like that. To get started, post your work, get people's feedback. Like for me, if I wasn't a part of that Vine community, I would have just been making videos and improving myself. Yeah, sure. But getting in front of a lot of different people's eyeballs, seeing what they're commenting. I thought comments were better than, I always said comments are better than likes. And the people say, yeah, this is really, really good. Great. But if people are like, hey, like hit me in the DM, like I got something to improve it, then cool. And what I also mean on the flip side of just start, like, yes, dude, just make videos, go out and shoot. You have a phone.
Yeah, I think people forget that. That's a great point that you bring up, is you have this.
That's a great camera.
Like
just practice. There's editing tools inside the photo app. They're not great, but like once you juice that, the next software that is considered better is only those tools are gonna help you. And by the flip side of just starting,
Yeah.
Whenever you're making a video, I used to have friends or people that talk to me and be like, hey, like, I don't know about this idea, or I don't know if this is really, really good. Maybe it's not. And maybe you're just starting off and it's not very good, but
Yeah.
you thought it was good. So chances are someone else thought it was there's a chance that someone else probably thinks what you thought was cool is actually cool. You never know. So
Yeah.
just roll with it. If you're trying to do things very cookie cutter and just trying to do it just to get a like on it on social media, I mean, how much are you growing? So yeah, that's the biggest thing is just start, just do it, man. Like
Just
it'll mold itself out. You got to disconnect from that end goal. Just work hard in the present, and it'll mold its way to where in 5 years you might be even further within what you had your long-term goal set at. Or
gotcha.
maybe you fall short, but you can't really complain because you did 100% what you could
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's great. I mean, like you said, the way the world is evolving, you got to continue to grow and continue to change as you go about. So if you're just sitting around, I like how you said that. If you're just sitting around waiting, you're not doing anything. So it's great to see that. Just get started. Don't think, just get started and go. Stop. Don't wait around further
yeah.
because it's something that I was watching the other day. I think it was Family Feud. I was watching Steve Harvey and this guy he said like there's never a right time to do something. You know what I mean? It's always you just
Yeah,
gotta jump in and
absolutely.
and do it. And so it's great to hear from you on that regard.
Yeah,
So
I think I heard Tom Brady say like
yeah,
if you are just tired or you want to rest, like
yeah,
you got competition passing you up every single day, every single second that you're not working.
yeah.
So, it's just something to think about.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's great advice as well. But that's all the time we have for this edition of the Athlete Insights podcast. This episode, excuse me. I will have Amani. I'll have your social media on the video, so you guys can follow Amani. I know he does phenomenal work. His reels are. I watch. I think I've watched all your reels, man. All great. Uh, been phenomenal. So keep up the good work. Like I said, I'll have your social media up so people can watch and follow you and hopefully you guys can follow Amani's journey as he grows and moves forward year to year. And then you can follow our podcast on YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere basically you get a podcast, you'll find this one as well. But with that being said, Amani, thank you very much. Like I said, I know it's your off time, so I appreciate you kind of taking the time to spend the time with me, chopping it up a little bit during your off time. But
Yeah,
with
man. Appreciate you having me. I appreciate the fact that you reached out so that we could reconnect. So this was really
Yeah,
fun.
no, it's great. I like I said, I brought back a lot of memories with
Mhm.
you, me, like we mentioned, Zach Wall, one of our other buddies, Cody Haney, another one of our friends.
Yeah,
So got back a lot of memories
yeah,
too. I appreciate you on that, but see
absolutely.
you next time.